But guys, as I said, we got to get into the movie film review. I'm doing the Highlander, which is a film I've seen clips from for years, particularly all the stuff of Clancy Brown's character, the Kurgan, the Kerrigan. What was his name? Like, they call him the Kerrigan, but then they just call him Kurgan. I think it's Kurgan. What's his name again? I don't remember his name. Oh, Kurgan. See, they just call him Kurgan. They also call him the Kurgan. We're going to call him Mr. Krabs, just to, make it easier, because as we all know, guys, Clancy Brown voices Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. I can't keep his goddamn name straight, so Mr. Krabs as it is. All right? Now, kind of give you a little background about this film, chat. The main actor, Christopher Lambert, apparently French, and did not speak English when he made this movie. Now, obviously, you see him speaking English throughout the entire film. That's just because he memorized all of his stuff phonetically. Everything that he was saying, he actually didn't understand what the fuck he was saying when he was saying it to the people. That's why his delivery throughout this entire film is so kind of weird and stilted, and just like has this, he's always staring at people because he's trying his best to hear, like, okay, their sentence is over. Now I go to my sentence 2, and I gotta wait for them to do sentence 3, and then I do my sentence 3. It's like that kind of shit. And I was like, wait a minute, is his performance kind of really weirded me out? I thought he was much better in like the flashback sequences. Like, this is odd when there was not a lot of talking going on. But apparently, chat, like, they were hoping. Who's the producers for this film? 20th Century Fox. They were hoping that this was going to be kind of a new franchise for them. And well, funny enough, it did turn out to be a franchise, but they wanted to be a little more lucrative. Because this film, while it had a budget of $19 million, like almost $20 million, fairly expensive for the time period, it flopped at the box office. It only made $12.9 million. Despite, having Sean Connery in it, but it was not enough Sean Connery, apparently. Sean Connery, guys, he gets like second billing in this movie, but he's in it for about, I'd say, under 10 minutes. The movie's 2 hours long. He's in maybe 8 to 9 minutes of it. And he's great in it. He's having a lot of fun throughout the film, but he's barely in the fucking thing. But since then, so even though it flopped initially when it came out and it got pretty mixed reviews, it's become a cult film. It spawned a theatrical release sequel, a television series which apparently is terrible. Both the sequel and the television series are bad, and also a lot of directed DVD sequels, I think. There's like a couple of them for like Sci-Fi Channel and stuff like that. Let me actually be sure. Yep. There's Highlander, Highlander 2, The Quickening, Highlander 3, The Sorcerer, which came out in 1994. I don't know if that's even Christopher Lambert in it. Highlander Endgame. I don't know if... no, apparently, yep, it does star. Yeah, he's in it too. Highlander The Source, which came out to the Sci-Fi Channel. And Highlander The Search for Vengeance. So there's a lot, which is an anime film, chat. So there's been a lot of sequels in the Highlander universe. But apparently the only good one in the franchise is the first. Unless we have some Highlander fans in here, please let me know what you think about the show. And ladies, they got a decent TV series out of it. I've heard it was really bad. I haven't seen it myself. I'm just going by what other people have told me about the series. When I mentioned that I was going to be doing a review for this, oh, don't watch the TV series. I mean, I never planned to, but apparently they were adamant how bad it was, so to each their own. How old is he? That's a good question. Let's see how old. And he's a fucking Highlander himself. I looked at the picture of him. He's a little gray-haired now. No longer salt and pepper, but just gray. Let's see how old he is. He's old. He's a little old. 62. He's 62. You guys are pretty close. He looks good. Hairline's recede a bit, and he's got that pretty much salt and pepper colored hair, but he's looking good. Hopefully he speaks English a little bit better now. But yeah, guys, so this movie, tell you right now, starts off in the distant year of 1985. We're in the middle of a wrestling match, chat. We're seeing these big, hairy, sweaty men just rubbing and wrestling with each other. And the crowd is all into it. I've never been into the WWE, WWF, professional wrestling in general, chat. I know that it is very popular among a lot of people. I never really got it. Like, the last time I was I watched professional wrestling was maybe when I was like 8 or 10 years old. Like, when was Sting? When was Sting one of the wrestlers? Like, he had the makeup and everything. That's what I remember. I was like, I like that guy's kind of cool. I like his whole entrance and everything. Kind of like The Undertaker, I assume. Very similar to that. But these people has filled Madison Square Garden, chat. Everyone is so excited about the wrestling match that they're seeing, about these big, hairy, sweaty men just ramming into each other, except for one guy. It's the Highlander, chat. It's the character who we don't know his name, We're going to call him McLeod. McLeod, he's having these various flashbacks to all these battles apparently he had, or maybe we don't know what he's thinking about at this point. We don't know what he is technically. But as this very fat man is screaming at him, like, isn't this the good stuff? Like adamant, like he's like trying to get McLeod into this big wrestling match. And McLeod's just fucking not having. He's just staring in the middle distance, got that 1,000-yard stare, chat. He's seeing all these battles and things, Scottish Highlands, you know, spears, swords, blood, viscera, decapitated heads, everything. And he's not even paying attention. He just like, fuck, I'm just going to get up. I can't be here anymore. And he goes to the Madison Square Garden parking garage. And of course, this is the 80s New York, chat. This is pre-Giuliani, so everything looks like it's covered in grime and trash. Not great, especially in these underground parking garages in Madison Square Garden. And he's also fucking sweaty. He's wearing like a huge overcoat. And you learn why he's wearing the overcoat, but he's just dripping sweat down his face. He looks extremely uncomfortable. Like, this is the middle of probably summer in New York, and you're wearing a goddamn trench coat. Don't do it. So he's walked through this parking garage, chat, and he's trying to find his car. But then all of a sudden, this fancy man comes up behind him and asks, "Are you McLeod?" And this guy, he's dressed very fancy in another overcoat as well, and a fucking suit jacket, chat. Like, this guy has layers, sweat just drenched down his face. And, you know, him and McLeod, they kind of face off, and he goes, "Yeah." And then this guy pulls out a fucking rapier, and McLeod pulls out a samurai sword, and they just start going at it. A katana, Chad, a katana. Not a samurai sword. Apparently there's a difference between a samurai sword and a katana. But then the guy whose name I think is, did they say his name? Iman. His name is Iman Fazil. And they start fighting. You don't know why. But, you know, during this battle, chat, which, by the way, the guy who's playing Fazil, he's like a 55-year-old man. And, Christopher Lambert, he's a good-looking guy. He's young-looking. But Christopher Lambert's getting his ass kicked throughout most of this fight. I say at least for 3/4 of the fight by this old guy. It's like, why? But eventually, McLeod, he gets the one-up on the old guy. Cuts his fucking head off, chat. And then all of a sudden, his body just lifts into the air. Is surrounded by this, I don't know, practical, not like a practical effect, but it's like this rotoscoping. It's like this blue and yellow rotoscoping that's like lifting his body there. It's like all kind of trails and light and everything. And then he just fucking explodes and turns to the lights. And Christopher Lambert goes, "No!" Like he's getting imbued with his power, chat. And all the car alarms get set off and all the lights, they start exploding above. And it's like something has happened. And then we get the title sequence, chat. It's the Highlander. So clearly, this is a film about immortal warriors where they're trying to obtain something called the prize. And we're given very few details at this point, but it's like it's something important. Don't worry. Sean Connery's going to come in here at the exposition. We'll get into all that good nonsense later. But, you know, McLeod, he's like, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. This is serious. Basically I killed this guy. And the NYPD in pre-Giuliani, New York, they will definitely murder me without a fair trial. So I gotta get out of here. He hides his samurai sword, chat, gets in his car and tries to get out of the parking garage, but then the fucking NYPD shows up. He's like, shit! And so they all surround him, and then, you know, no Miranda rights are read for him, chat. They fucking pull their guns on him. They don't even know who he is. He's just coming out of the goddamn parking garage. They're like, "Freak, get down the fucking car!" It's like, Jesus Christ. And again, pouring fucking sweat. It must be like 100 degrees out in New York City. It's all amplified by the sun and the concrete and the glass. It's not a good time. Everyone's on edge here, chat. So he gets out of the car, and then they just begin beating the shit out of him. And again, no rights read or anything. He's talking shit to the cops, or at least trying to talk shit to the cops. At this point, chat, we're like, oh, he's clearly like from Sweden or France. In this case, he's French. There's no way he'd actually be Scottish or anything, because that's not a Scottish accent. Oh, just wait. And so they take him in, chat, and they go ahead and they put him in the interrogation room, and that's when we learn about McLeod's past. Because apparently, he's not just some, sweaty man wandering around the streets of New York just cutting people's heads off. No. He is an immortal warrior. Calls himself the Highlander because he, in 1536, that's the year that says on Wikipedia, in 1536, he was defending the Scottish Highlands from a warring family. And it was him and his entire people, and he was assisting a specific clan against this evil clan. And he was just having a good time, chat. He was in love with his family, very supportive friends. Riding off the battle, he had a nice woman to warm his bed after all these battles. Like, things were pretty good for him. And so when he enters this battlefield, chat, he's like, all right, there's not many guys there. We'll be fine. But all of a sudden, in the back, he sees him, chat. Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs, also known as Clancy Brown, who is, despite everyone just wearing fucking kilts and, like, seems to be of period, armor and weapons, he's decked out in this, like, almost Dark Souls-esque armor. It's, like, bone. It's, like, old man of bones. Like, it probably weighs, like, 100 pounds. But he's able to swing his fucking Claymore sword around like it's nothing, like a goddamn baton. And he's like, listen, I'm helping you guys out, you dirty Scott bastards, but I want him. I want that pretty boy who's pretending to be Scottish. And that's the thing, chat. Like, Christopher Lambert, he's playing the Scottish Highlander, right? And he's surrounded by other actors who have Scottish accents. Scottish, Irish, British accents, whatever. One of the guys from Game of Thrones, actually, the guy who played J.R. Mormont, the father of Captain Friendzone in Game of Thrones. He's in there, very young looking. I mean, young for him. He still looks old as shit. But he's got, like, a little blonde and red in his hair. They all have, like, I was like, okay, clearly that guy is Scottish. But then when they're talking to fucking Christopher Lambert, he doesn't sound Scottish at all. He does not fit. And so I was always wondering, why did they cast him for this film? I was looking as to why the reason was, but I can't find one. Was anyone who watched this movie thrown off by his accent? Because it is truly bizarre. And here's the thing, Chad, again, at this point in his career, he didn't speak English at all. He just spoke it phonetically for the movie. Like, he would wait for someone's line to be over and then would phonetically say his line. How he was doing it, he was just speaking gibberish to people. It's true. It's so fucking weird to me. Yeah, Connor McLaughlin of Clan McLeod. That's it. That's right, JT. You nailed it. Theme man, there's a shit ton of flashbacks. The thing is, the movie cuts back to the present and the past so often. I'm gonna do all the flashback sequences now, like 0 and 1, because they cut back so frequently. It's hard for me to really grasp like what's the structure of the film. Initially, it takes place. Movie starts in 1985, pre-Giuliani, New York, and then we're now in a flashback sequence that takes place in 1536. When the Scots and the Brits and the Irish are all fighting each other. And that's where we are here right now. Connor McLaughlin, Christopher Lambert, he's fighting for the McLaughlin family against these other bad Scot guys. Clancy Brown, who's definitely not Scottish and freely admits that in the film, he's joined the evil guys to fight because he wants to get Christopher Lambert, the Frenchman who's trying to be Scottish. He's decked out in his Dark Souls armor. And so I was like, okay, well, let's get this fucking battle going. So they'll all run at each other, chat, but no one's attacking Christopher Lambert, like none whatsoever. He's like, why is no one fighting me? And they're like, oh no, we can't fight him. Like, they're actively like moving around him, chat, because goddamn Mr. Krabs said no one touches him, only I am going to be the one to kill him. This is a very good important reason, chat, and we're going to learn about it soon when fucking Sean Connery shows up. And so, fucking Mr. Krabs like presents himself like, I'll fight you. And Christopher Lambert's like, yeah, let's fucking do it, and gets his ass kicked immediately, chat. As soon as he holds up his sword, Mr. Krabs just stabs him right in the fucking gut and just like, just eviscerates him, blood, guts, just, all coming out, like pouring out of his body, chat. And then he's dead. His fellow Scott Highlanders are like, no, retreat, and they grab Christopher Lambert. They, They tackle Mr. Krabs. Chat, he's like, I have to kill him. Like, Mr. Krabs is like very adamant, like, I got to chop that guy's head off, or I won't be imbued with the power that I need. But we'll learn about that later. So they managed to take Christopher Lambert back to their Scottish castle, chat, and he's dying. He's not looking too good. They're like, oh shit. Oh man, like I feel so bad about this. He's got his woman who's always in his bed all the time. She's crying over him. She's blubbering, chat, like, oh, shut up, woman. Stop your blubber. That's the last thing he wants to hear. And then, chat, we just cut away. Then we go back to the film in present day, 1985. We're not going to do that. So, apparently, chat, even though he was on death's fucking door, just stab wound, guts, and everything were just falling out, they just couldn't put him back together. He got better the next day. He was totally fine. And despite you would think, like, everyone's like, oh my God, yes, Christopher Lambert, you're okay. You're our brother. You're our countryman. You fought with our family. We're so glad. Whatever miracle happened, you did it. This is a sign from God. But no, chat, they're like, that was some fucking weird shit. That motherfucker should be dead. And everyone's like, how are we going to handle this? And they don't handle it well, chap. Because everyone's saying, you know what? That's the work of the devil. That's the work of Satan. But some guys are like, no, he's our friend. No, he's our family member. We have to defend him. Like, only J.R. Mormont is saying that, chat. He's the only one that's really saying that. the rest of like his cousins and brothers are like, nah, fuck him. His wife slash bedmate or whatever, the girl, she's like, he's a worshiper of Satan. He's cursed. And he comes in the bar, Chase like, I'm alive, guys. Isn't it great? And like, no one's talking to him. Everyone's giving him the fucking snake eye, like the stink eye chat. And he comes over. He's like, what's wrong? Why is everyone being mean to me? He's like, you should be dead, man. We don't know what black magic you're participating in, but we want none of it. And he's like, I'm just alive. I didn't do anything. And he's like, well, guys, please. But then his fucking woman starts screaming, and chat's like, no, you're in League of Satan. And then her character completely changes. First, she's like blubbering over him, chat, that she's so sad that her husband slash boyfriend, I don't know what she is in capacity to him, and he's dead. But now she just wants to tear him apart. And then even J.R. Mormont, who's the nicest, he says, listen, man, maybe you should just go. You just get out of here. He's being as nice about it as he can be. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. And then one of his brothers like, fuck that. And he like knocks him out. And then we cut outside. And he's in bondage, Chad. He's got like one of those, I don't know what, it's like this wooden, it's like a wooden contraption. It's like a thing where he has his arms up here and he can't really move. And they're just beating the shit out of him, Chad. They're stoning him. They're headbutting him. They're punching him in the gut. The woman who was like, apparently loved him a day ago, just wants to tear him apart. And she's just screaming. It's like, I want all the people to die. Like Mr. Krabs, sure, but I hope she got it, Chad. I hope she got the worst. She was terrible. She betrayed him. And so they're about to murder him, or at least try to murder him. They can't murder him, Chad, as we'll find out. But J.R. Mormont, he takes control of the situation. He hugs Christopher Lambert. He says, okay, listen, they're gonna kill you, or at least they're gonna do whatever they want to you. You need to leave, like right now. And he says, we'll exile him. He's banished for life. And he goes like, listen, I'm sorry to do this to you. You're a good man. I was like, I like J.R. Mormont. It's the last we see of him, Chad. He's like, and even Christopher Lambert's like, you know, in his terrible French accent, he says, thank you, I'll always remember you. And he just fucking wanders off, chat, still in this goddamn contraption, just waddling away. But eventually, he apparently gets out of it. And like 5 years later, he is with a new Scottish lass, chat, who is far friendlier than the one that was formerly in his bed. I think she's aware that he's immortal at this point, because she doesn't seem off-put by him at all, and they're smooching all the time, Chad. You know, they're boning, they're doing all the sexy stuff. It's like, oh, this is good. He's found happiness now, Chad, in a new place in Scotland. But one day, he is visited by Sean Connery, us fellow Scotsman. Well, no, he introduces himself as a conquistador from Spain. Like I'm the Spaniard. And then later he says, which is again doesn't make any, no, everyone's accent doesn't match. He says, well, I'm a conquistador, I'm a Spaniard from the royal court of Spain. And later he's like, why am I listening to this goddamn Spaniard? And then Sean Connery corrects him, well, technically I'm not a Spaniard, I'm actually Egyptian. What? What? So this Egyptian slash Spaniard, played by Sean Connery, who, as we all know, makes no attempt to change his accent. He sounds Scottish. It doesn't make any sense. Just have him be Scottish. What difference does it make? Oh, fucking. So he introduces himself to Christopher Lambert, and he says, I've been looking for you about the man that could not die. I've heard about you, and you and I are the same. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you are an immortal Highlander. And then we get the Luke Yoda type training sequences, chat. Because Sean Connery, he lays it all out there. He says, listen, we are a race of immortals. We're born across the world. We're almost picked randomly. We're imbued with various powers, increased dexterity, strength, durability, immortality. We cannot die with one exception. If someone cuts off our heads and we're decapitated, then we die and we become one with the fucking quickening. I don't know what it is. And the quickening, Chad, is just this ability that you have to be like, you can concentrate really good. That's what it is. And so we get the whole training montage. And I'll admit, Chad, like Sean Connery, for the limited screen time he has in this, and it's like shocking how little he actually does. He is very fun. He's very charismatic. I mean, he's being fucking Sean Connery. All right. You know, being the wise master, but it's also a bit of a shit talker. And he's using that goddamn samurai sword pretty well. We learn about his whole backstory, Chad. He's like, listen, you're going to live for fucking ever. You're going to live forever. That's one thing, Chad. Apparently. Oh, hold on. Hold on, guys. What the hell is that? Sorry. There was a disgusting bug on my light right there. I smushed it. I did not like that. Okay. Queen does the soundtrack for this film, and it is amazing. If you guys have not seen or have not listened to the soundtrack, do yourself a favor and do so. It shouldn't fit for the movie, but it's one of the best things that is in the film itself. So I highly recommend checking that out. And Queen plays throughout all the training sequences, and Sean Connery, he's telling about his past. Like, yeah, I've been alive for about 2,500 years. I've traveled the world, been across multiple continents, married 3 times in my life. Because he says, like, listen, you're going to live forever, and she's gonna die. Like the last wife I had was in Japan. That was like 1,000 years ago. More than that, I think like 1,500 years ago. No, it was like 2,000 years. I don't remember how long. It was a long time. And he says, like, the last thing I married this Japanese princess, and I befriended her father, and they made me this sword, this katana. Isn't it grand? And he says, listen, like, if you're going to live this life, there's going to be some sacrifices. And he says, like, we are all destined to go to a far-off, distant continent that has not been discovered yet. And we are going to experience the gathering. And where all of us, for whatever reason, for whatever purpose, we're going to be drawn in this particular spot, which happens to be modern-day New York City. And we're all going to compete for a thing called the prize. How does he know this? I don't know. I guess he's just imbued with fucking foresight shit. He saw something in the future, and maybe they all did. And we're going to fight for the prize. We don't know what it is, but this is our destiny. And it's weird because, like, Sean Connery, he's just training this guy, and he's like, it's kind of interesting because even Christopher Lambert's like, okay, well, we're all destined to go here, and only one of us, there can only be one. Why are you doing this? And Sean Connery never gives an answer. He doesn't explain why he happens to be training this kid. I guess it's like, man, that's the plot of the film. We would have a movie about it, I didn't train you. It's like, okay, whatever. So he trains him, chat, they fucking bond. He gets the friend that, he never really had, the one that he left long ago when everyone, like, betrayed him. You betray me. Like, Sean Connery is that guy for him. Teaches him that, like, yeah, you can use all your skills, your sword fighting techniques, and, they have a grand old time. And it's good. Like, yes, we're going to do this. Even though Sean Connery's like, you got to get rid of that girl eventually. This is how it's going to be. Then one day, apparently, Christopher Lambert, he's off doing some Scottish stuff, and he's at home with the wife of Christopher Lambert, and they're just drinking the whole time, but then he gets that goddamn Sixth Sense chat, and it bursts through their door of their little Scottish hovel is Mr. Krabs, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, you son of a bitch, and then Sean Connery and Mr. Krabs start fighting. Sean Connery has the upper hand for most of the fight, but, like, he slashes Mr. Krabs' throat, and he's like, and he gets, like, a really gurgly, voice now, chat. It's even more disgruntled, more garbled. But Mr. Krabs is far powerful. He's swinging his goddamn sword around. He's basically just hitting the fucking walls out, creating big holes. The house that they're in, the tower then is just starting to collapse, chat. He manages to stab Sean Connery in the gut, and he's like, I got you. And he cuts Sean Connery's head off, and he's dead. And it's like, shit, oh my god. So Sean Connery's out of the movie, had about, I'd say, 8 minutes of screen time. Then he rapes the wife of Christopher Lambert. And then, again, this is all told in flashback sequences, chat, and they're all out of order. I'm just doing them, like, a little easier to make the movie flow a little bit better. But he rapes his wife. Christopher Lambert comes back in the film. Like, I don't know where the hell he was. They don't explain what happened to him. But now he's back. He finds his wife. She's okay. She never tells him about the rape or whatever, and they live out the rest of their lives, chat. He never ages. She ages. Oh, that's the other thing, too. Like, they can't have children. Apparently, the immortals, they can't breed. And so him and his wife never had children, even though she always wanted them. And then she's an old woman, and on, like, the night of her death, she's like, I've always known what you were. You've always been honest with me. And it's like, you can do one thing, if you can just remember me, if you can light a candle every, on the day of my birthday, the night of my birthday. He's like, I'll do that for you. She dies, chat. He buries her, burns down the homestead, and then he abandons his identity of McCloud. And then we come back to modern-day New York, and where he's still being interrogated by the police. They're like, listen, what happened in that goddamn garage in Madison Square Garden? We found a guy without a head. He's like, I don't know anything about that. And, apparently you don't have nothing. He just walks out of the interrogation room, chat. He's like, yeah, you got nothing on me. He never read my Miranda rights. Matter of fact, I'm going to sue you for negligence. He can absolutely do that, chat. But he doesn't want any trouble. He doesn't want any trouble. So he goes ahead. He goes back home. Meanwhile, one of the forensic experts, she's analyzing the scene, chat. Apparently, this woman who's a forensic expert working for the police department, she's an expert in swords and sword combat. As you do. As you would need to be in order to be a forensic expert working for a police department. And she realized, okay, this guy's head was cut off by a very sharp blade. She manages to find, I think, the sword, the katana, that was used to cut off the fancy man's head earlier, chat. And Christopher Lambert's like, I gotta get my fucking sword back. This is gonna be an issue. But we go back to Christopher Lambert's home, chat. He apparently runs an antique shop, filled with all sorts of old objects, and he sells basically all his property off that he's acquired throughout his entire lifetime, chat. Creating fake identities by children who died when they were very young, basically taking on that identity, so he can basically live the life that he lives, but still be able to maintain some type of semblance. But he has to just use the dead kids basically. So he goes back there. We meet his secretary, chat, who's also kind of his faux daughter. We learned that he fought the Nazis back in the day, apparently. Lived in continental Europe, chat. This British girl's family was just completely wiped out by this Nazi. And he killed him right back. And now this 50-year-old woman's his secretary. It's a very weird relationship because she clearly loves him. Weird. She's very intimate with him and touching his face, and they're always kissing each other. But it's like, all right, well, what is this? So I imagine at one time they had some type of intimate relationship, and now it's kind of like, it's a little more platonic, but there's still something there. And she's always covering for him, chat. Always creating these secret identities for him because she's involved in all these cover-ups. Eventually, the forensic expert's like, okay, we got to figure this out. This guy has something to do with these murders. We got to lay a trap for him. Apparently, he got his sword back at one point. I think he went back to the garage. He picked it up. And they have an interaction. Oh, here we go, chat. They initially meet on the street because she goes to talk to him again at his antique shop. He's like, I got nothing for you. And so she leaves, and he follows her. But then, chat, we introduced again to Mr. Krabs. He's back, and he's now in New York City because all the people have been drawn to the gathering, which has happened in New York, and they're all going to be fighting each other. The last of the immortals are going to be fighting each other. And Mr. Krabs has been tracking him for a while, apparently. He goes and attacks the woman, chat, but Christopher Lambert, he's surprised, and they get into a brief duel, and then Mr. Krabs runs away. It's not that epic. It's not really choreographed all the well, so he gets the fuck out of there. And eventually he saves the forensic expert, and she's like, well, who are you? What the hell is all about? He's like, you get away from me. If you're smart, you'll forget all about this stuff that just happened. And then Mr. Krabs is doing a bunch of weird shit, chat. He's training with his sword in his hotel room. He, again, just being weird and tough and ugly looking. He's got this punk kind of look, chat, a fucking weird hairstyle, slick backed hair, covered in tattoos, piercing. He has paper clips that's holding his throat together for some reason. It's very bizarre. Harold Bob, welcome to the stream. Mr. Krabs gets sprayed down with the submachine. Oh, we'll get to that soon. And so he's just doing weird, gross stuff. He has sex with a woman apparently later on. He's singing, Candy. Ooh, you sound sweet, Candy. Making those kind of lines. I mean, Clancy Brown is just chewing on goddamn on scenery, chat. Big fucking mouthfuls the entire time. And it works for him. He's goofy, but it works for the movie itself. Certainly has more charisma than Christopher Lambert. And then at one point, the forensic expert, what was her name, chat? What name? Lisa or something? Randolph? What the hell was her name? Oh, God. Brenda, the forensic pathologist. That's who, Brenda. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to set up this meeting with Christopher Lambert. We're gonna lay a trap for him. We're going to get him to admit that he was the guy that used that sword to cut off that other guy's head. And so she works at the police department, sets all this up, chat, has a tape recorder in there, has a gun just in case he pulls some nonsense. He comes over to her apartment, chat, but Christopher Lambert, he's smart enough. He's been around for nearly 500 years. He's done this game so many times. He finds the tape recorder. He finds the gun. And he just fucking confronts. He's like, listen, I know what you're doing. I see the police out there. You're going to get nothing from me. And she's like, okay, what the hell are you? What the fuck do you want? He's like, I'll never reveal what I truly am. And then he takes off, chat. Eventually, he meets another guy who is a fellow immortal. He's just a black guy, chat. That's pretty much what he is. I think his name is, what's his name? Toledo? Yes. No, it's not it. I don't even give this guy a name. They really don't. They don't give this guy a name whatsoever. Yep. Not at all. He's just a black guy. That's pretty. Is his name what? Wyatt. His name is Wyatt. Thank you, Tuned Out. I can't remember these people's names. So he finds Wyatt, and they meet on this bridge in Central Park, and they're like, first they're like, oh, they're gonna start fighting, but they don't chat. They're on, they're on good terms. They start reminiscing about their, little adventures hundreds of years ago. We get this again. There's a lot of flashbacks of like, the 1940s or the 1750s. This flashback is when Christopher Lambert, when he insulted this, I don't know, British general or something, called his wife like a bloated walrus or something like that. And he's like, I'm gonna challenge you to a duel. And so the guy just keeps stabbing the shit out of Christopher Lambert. Christopher Lambert keeps falling down and getting up. There's also some homophobia in this movie, chat, because they use the word faggot a lot in this film. They also make fun of the fact like this British, like the assistant to the British general is constantly like kissing or trying to kiss the British general, like always smooching him after every time he does well at murdering Christopher Lambert. It's very off-putting and fucking weird. And then eventually, the British, because you can't kill Christopher Lambert in the very effeminate assistant to the British general comes over like, I have these 2 pistols. Kill him, my love. Kill him. It's like, whoa. And then the British general just takes the gun and fucking shoots the assistant. It's like, what's going on here? It's a little offensive. Brenda Wyatt. Oh, is that? So that's not her name? I don't know, Jeff. Oh, okay, the forensic expert is Brenda. What's the other guy's name? What's his friend's name? I don't think it's said. Yeah, no one knows. We will never know. Whatever his name was, Chad. He doesn't have much screen time. Because then after this little fun sequence with them, we cut to this crazy Vietnam veteran who's just driving around his car with a whole bunch of assault weapons and semi-automatic weapons, chat. There's something wrong with him. He's passing by an alley, and he sees Mr. Krabs and the Vesemir. Thank you, Vesemir. He sees Vesemir and Mr. Krabs engaging in a sword fight. Vesemir's got like this, I don't know what it is. Looks like a pirate sword, chat. He's using a pirate sword, and and Mr. Krabs has his long sword. He's like, what the fuck's going on here? And it seems to not be a very even match. Vesemir's getting his ass kicked by Mr. Krabs, and eventually Mr. Krabs just cuts his head off. It's like we knew this guy for less time than we knew Sean Connery. It's ridiculous. Like less than 5 minutes of screen time this guy had. What was the point of introducing him? Why introduce that he had a relationship with Christopher Lambert at all? Just to make whatever. It's fine. So he kills him. We get the quickening type thing again, chat, where he's imbued with the magic. The body disintegrates in the blue and yellow light. The Vietnam guy's like, fuck that! And he just fucking lays into Mr. Krabs, just shoots the shit on this hot molten lead, all in his tummy and chest, and he's blown all the way back. And the Vietnam guy's like, what the hell happened here? And he goes over and Mr. Krabs is gone. But then he pops up behind him and he stabs the Vietnam vet and like lifts him up in the air with his sword. Just, all the guts and blood just leaking. He's like, just screaming, chat. And meanwhile, there's like a huge crowd that's gathered at this point. They're like seeing everything that just happened. He throws the Vietnam vet in the wall. He gets imbued with the light and whatever that is, the quickening. I don't understand. And then after all this happens, the crowd's like, visibly freaking out, and then Mr. Krabs just starts booking right to him, just starts running headlong into him. Oh my God, he's gonna start slaughtering people in the middle of New York City, but he doesn't, chat. He just kind of pushes some people aside, rips an old man out of his car, and then starts driving the car with his wife still in the passenger seat, and she's trying her best to escape, chat. She even gets on the fucking hood of the car. She's like, help me! I mean, again, it's a stunt double. They have the ADR going. And then she gets sucked underneath the car and she gets run over. It's like, Jesus Christ, Mr. Krabs, what the hell's wrong with you? Mr. Krabs needs to be taken down, Chat. He's a fucking menace to society at this point. Again, pre-July New York. It's terrible. I think eventually we cut back to Christopher Lambert. He's like, okay, listen, this situation has gotten too out of hand. I know some of the nonsense that's been happening. I gotta reveal everything. I gotta reveal everything to this Brenda woman because I have feelings for her for some reason. So he goes ahead and he talks to his secretary about the situation. She's like, "Oh, you've never felt this way before, maybe once." And he's like, "Ah, I see. There's some chemistry, some sexual tension there, chat." He's like, "I need to tell her." Eventually, he brings back Brenda to his apartment, And he just plains out says, she's like looking around at all his cool stuff he's acquired over the centuries that he's lived. She's picking up a knife. She's like, this is a good knife. And she's like, yeah, it's a great knife. And he lays it out there. I'm a master swordsman. I've done all these things. I've been around for centuries, and I'm immortal. And then he takes her hand and then stabs himself with a knife. And she's like, she freaks out. And he's like, oh my God, an accessory to murder. And then he collapses in the ground. She's like, oh my God, are you okay? He's like, see, I'm A-okay. And then they start smooching, chat. And it's not earned whatsoever, this romance. I don't know how this built over any time. Like, it did not. It's just happening for the sake of the film. It's just fucking ridiculous. So they start smooching, chat, and we get like a really hot sex scene. Get the boobs, the bazungas, they're all out there, chat, the bazingas. We see Christopher Lambert's, his naked, tight ass. It's tight, and they're slapping each other's asses and things. Like, okay, I did not expect such a gratuitous sex scene, chat, but we got it. And she's like, all right, well, you know what, I believe you. And especially after that sex. You've clearly been around. You know your stuff, man. And so like, I can fall in love, though. I was in love at one time. And, I mean, it ended in tragedy. I mean, I outlived my wife. And it'll be the same for you. We go down that road. She's like, okay, buddy. She actually feels like, okay, you know what, that was a one-and-done thing. Take care of yourself, Christopher Lambert. And she heads home, chat. But when she gets home, who's there? Mr. Krabs. Because Mr. Krabs was watching the entire time. He was stalking his prey. He's like, oh, hello, pretty lady. And she's like, and she freaks out, chat. Drops her groceries, what the hell she was carrying around. Opens her apartment door, closes her door. She's like, woo, that is that. Mr. Krabs is not coming here. Mr. Krabs busts through the fucking walls like a Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah, and he's chasing after her in her apartment. She grabs the gun, chat. The gun has no fucking effect on Mr. Krabs, as we know. And then he kidnaps her, chat. And then he goes on a fucking joy with her. Again, Mr. Krabs is shooting. Oh, there's a scene, I remember, too, chat. Before this happens, I think Mr. Krabs goes to the church that Christopher Lambert went to light the candle for his wife because it was her birthday. And he's just in there fucking with all the worshipers, all the patrons. Like, he goes to the whole little altar of all the candles for everyone, lit someone for their family. He starts putting them all out looking asses going, ha 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 ha, and just starts laughing the entire time. He goes over and starts talking shit to Christopher Lambert, and he looks really gross and weird. Like, oh, that's the other thing too. He changed his appearance because the Vietnam vet survived his injuries, and he told the police about the guy that attacked him, Mr. Krabs. He's like, oh shit, so his face is all around New York City at this point. Everyone's looking for Mr. Krabs. And now, back at the church, shaved his head, looking even uglier. He's got staples and paper clips in his neck. Christopher Lambert, you look fucking off. He's like, yeah, I do. And they have that conversation. Mr. Krabs reveals that he raped Christopher Lambert's wife back in the day, even though Sean Connery said that was his woman, but I knew it wasn't real. And, that just sets fucking Christopher Lambert off. He's like, all right, let's go do this outside. He's like, no, we won't. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to torture you. And then he leaves, chat, and he's doing all the weird shit. A lot of improv from Clancy Brown during this movie. And it works. He fucking talks to a priest, like licks the priest's hand and everything. It's like, ugh, this is fucking gross. But yeah, then eventually he finds Brenda, apartment, the whole thing, kidnaps her. Now we're in the car with them, chat. And then he's just having, again, this scene's actually fun because he's just having fucking fun. He's driving the opposite side of the road, running people over, hitting other cars, and gets, like, pretty much he's doing a live action GTA, what we all do in GTA. Imagine playing GTA, but you're not doing any missions. You just want, like, I just want to do an hour of fucking destruction. It's the point, like, how long can I survive with 6 stars? This is that in real life. Or at least in Highlander. Running people off the road, getting sucked underneath the car, hitting guys off their motorcycles, they're fucking flying ahead, just crashing, paraplegics attached, so many paraplegics. Kills a whole bunch of people. Eventually, he makes a call where Christopher Lambert says, I have your woman. And she's screaming, she's a screamer. And he's like, I wonder how much she'll scream after I cut all these things off. He's like, damn, Chad. He's fucking serious. He has a talk with his secretary, Rachel, who still has those feelings for him, but it's like, it's kind of weird, let's not do that. He says, listen, I gotta go and fight this guy. She's like, you're saying this, but you're not coming back, are you? He's like, I'm not coming back. He's like, here's all the money that you need for the rest of your life and for your children's lives and your grandchildren's life. Take it all. Goodbye, Rachel. It was a nice little sweet scene. Again, a little weird, a little off-putting, but it's like, I saw the intention here, Chad. I saw the good intentions here. And so he goes up there, Chad, and he tracks down, because I think he says, Mr. Krabs says, meet me on the Silver Cups production roof. Silver Cup Studios in Queens, which apparently is a real studio. I think Silver Cup Studios is the same company that might have produced this movie or had a hand in producing it. But they go there. Apparently, chat, the original climactic battle is supposed to take place on the Statue of Liberty. But they're like, well, we can't do that because that's too fucking expensive. So instead of the Statue of Liberty, this iconic American landmark, let's instead go ahead and have this take place on the Silver Cup Studios roof. That's just as good, right? Just as good. And so they go there, he tracks him down, and he sees fucking Brenda. She's hanging up there, chat. She's screaming her head off. And then Christopher Lambert and Mr. Krabs, they engage in a duel, chat. It's kind of awkward here because there's not like a lot of room to move. So they're just kind of swinging at each other like this, like over and over again. Eventually, because of all this destruction, the sign fucking comes down. This big old water tower, which was near him, it falls over. They're submerged in water, chat. They're barely able to, like, really fight. At one point, fucking Mr. Krabs goes in the water like a goddamn crocodile. It's, like, moving around like this, trying to track Christopher Lambert. Christopher Lambert, he gets Brenda out of there after she almost dies. The fucking roof caves in. And then Christopher Lambert and Mr. Krabs, they keep fighting, chat. And at one point, like, Mr. Krabs, he has the fucking upper hand on Christopher Lambert. Like, there's no question. He's about to cut his goddamn head off. He's about to get the gift, chat. The prize. What he's always wanted. He's been alive thousands of years. Like, he's finally going to get it for the first time. But then fucking Brenda comes up behind him, hits him in the back of the head with a pipe. He's like, what the fuck? And then that apparently motivates Christopher Lambert to get up, and they start fighting, chat. Dueling and everything. And, you know, Mr. Krabs, he's exhausted at this point. He's like, I've been doing this a while. And I just can't keep up with him. Clearly, Christopher Lambert, he's been motivated by me getting hit in the back of the head. He's like, shit, this is not good. And then, chat, after, like, this big fight, like, you know, Mr. Krabs, he's getting cut up and everything. He's like, he's being weakened. He's like, okay, I'm going to put everything I have in this one swing. And he fucking misses, chat. He whiffs it so hard. And Christopher Lambert just comes in there, hits him so goddamn fast. Mr. Krabs doesn't even know that he's dead. He just kind of stops moving. He goes, oh shit, I think I just died. And his fucking head falls off. And it gets, like, erupted in a volcano. And his head stump, like, yellow and blue and red light. Like, all the souls of the people he's collected over all of his lifetimes, chat. Just pouring out of him. And then Christopher Lambert is imbued with the prize. And we get these weird rotoscope drawings of demons and animals and monsters and people. And they're all going inside of Christopher Lambert, like intimately going up inside of him. And then he just kind of collapses to the floor. He fucking wire works. You even see the goddamn harness he's in, like the wires, and they're pulling him around like this. It's like, this doesn't look good. But he's getting imbued of all that good stuff. The prize itself, chat, he fucking crash lands on the ground. And Brenda, she comes over to him. She's like, are you okay? He's like, I think so. And then we cut to Scotland, chat. And we get a voiceover. And apparently the prize gives you everything you want. You're telepathic. You're telekinetic. You know the thoughts, the feelings of everyone around you. You can influence fucking governments and politicians, presidents, prime ministers, princes, as they say. You're able to have children now. So if you want to start fucking, go ahead, man. Have all those kids you should have had back then with your Scottish wife in 1536. And I guess you could also choose to age if you want to. And he just decides, Brenda, let's live this idyllic life in Scotland. And I'm just going to kind of influence the world for the time I have and basically become a god on Earth. And she's like, sounds fucking good. Credits, chat. Fucking Queen starts playing. Do you want to live forever? It's good. The MacGuffin. Pretty much tuned down. Yeah, and that's fucking Highlander. I don't remember that. That's what happens, summer baby. That's what happens. I'm sure of it. Yeah, guys, there's like a lot of good ideas here in this film, but to me, at least, they're not executed very well. Like I'll say, like, I like the whole lore and mythology behind all of this. Immortal warriors, like, they can't die except for this one weakness. They get their heads cut off, all coming from different places on Earth. They've acquired all this knowledge and skill from different cultures. Love that. But it's just, you know, with the exception of a couple of actors, like Charlie Connery does a great job. And Clancy Brown, he does a good job too. Again, fucking just chewing the goddamn scenery. Over the top. He's at a fucking 11. And Sean Connery's just being charming Sean Connery. Not in enough. But I think the biggest weakness of this film, guys, and I know people like enjoy this movie, but I think it's Christopher Lambert. Because we spend so much time with him in this film, and he just can't sell these lines, this dialogue he's given, because of the fact he doesn't even know what he's saying. He's just speaking phonetically, and it comes out so goddamn stilted. That's like, I have no emotion towards this character. And That's just a big issue for me. That took a lot out of it. Like, I could see why people would appreciate this film. There is a lot to appreciate about it, but overall, I found it a interesting but somewhat dull watch. And I'd probably give this, like a high rental. There is like a lot of good stuff in this film, but I think because of its how they use the budget on certain things, like even some of the flashback sequences, like the stuff in Scotland actually works well, but then other things like from the 1940s or like the late 1700s, that's stuff that just does not look good. There's also the weird homophobic scenes in this movie that are just very off-putting. I was like, yeah, this doesn't age very well. It's not really funny. It's actually kind of offensive. It's like, yeah. So overall, I'd probably give it like it's a high rental. You know, like there's something in this movie, and I think if it was in the hands of a better filmmaker and you had a better lead actor, it could be a lot better.